Go time.
We're good to go.
Hey, everybody. It is good to be, if not physically proximate, socially connected during this time in our country's history. I am honored to have each and every one of you on the team today. You'll see that I didn't do my normal sort of sub-mediocre stand-up routine today because we're going to talk about some really serious stuff, and I want to give it honor and respect. It has been about 2.5 weeks since George Floyd was murdered by people who were sworn to protect him. And I'll share with you my perspective that far from a one-off, that murder of Mr. Floyd is part of a legacy and system of racism and race-based violence that we have experienced in our country. It is hitting all of us in different ways, and I want to make a point of that. Hopefully all of us are angry and sad and devastated. But for others of us, it is far more personal. For the Black and African American members of our team, while the white people may be outraged, the Black people have reason for fear. Well, we may be sad and angry, the depth of sadness and anger, if it could be you or your son or your mom or your dad, is simply going to be different. And so we're going to talk about some important things today. It's the beginning of what I think is a meaningful dialogue in our country. But I want to acknowledge from the beginning that this is impacting us differently. And even for the white people who deeply care and consider ourselves allies and not racist, I want to make the point that it's going to be different for different people. I want to encourage everybody in this time, and especially, frankly, the white people, to listen and to be curious. As JR says, seek to understand, listen to understand. We will get through it, but many of us have to do things differently. I'm going to oscillate between my notes and offhand. The only reason I'm looking at the notes is because this is such an important topic and I want to do honor and justice to it. With all my heart, I wish this was a one-off, that it was an aberration, that it was a singular event. But we know better, and we've seen better. We know that there's an insidious streak that's tied to a hateful pattern in our country's history, and that this pattern is tied to far too many murders that preceded it. For folks like Tamir Rice and Aiyana Stanley Jones, to John Crawford III, to Emmett Till, and to countable, not countless, but to countable others whose names we don't know, not because they weren't unjust killings, but because there wasn't cell phone footage, and because we're in a system where Black folks' voices and testimony simply weren't there to be believed. Mr. Floyd's murder was different. It was seen, and finally, it was heard. Too late. I can tell you, I wish I can tell you that we'd be having exactly the same conversation if Mr. Floyd hadn't been murdered. But I can't, because we haven't had this conversation before. And so to do honor to him and others, and to honor our African American Black staff and volunteers, AmeriCorps members and partners, and to do our part, we're here today, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you. Before we start, I want to introduce a couple people. I believe one is on the phone and one is going to be on the phone. And they're two of my bosses. Jackie Matthews is a dear friend. She's a lawyer, she's a jeweler, she's a mom, she's a farmer, she's an owner of an organic pear farm in Oregon, and she's also a board member, and she's also my boss. Jackie is here somewhere, but I'm not going to scroll around from her, and she may actually be hopping on at just 10 past. Ron Guerrier is also on today. Ron is the Chief Information Technology Officer for the state of Illinois. He was asked personally to do that job by President Obama. He was the first Black Chief Information Officer of a major pharmaceutical company. He had the same role at Toyota and at Farmers. And Ron, as well as my board, as well as Jackie, is on the board and one of my bosses. I want us to know that, I want you all to know that SBP has to do better. The time for simply doing our job and doing it well and staying on the sidelines is over. I want to tell all of you that the lives of Black people have to matter and Black lives have to matter. And it's appalling that we have to say it, but we do have to say it. And if they matter, we just cannot sit quietly anymore. We have to be on this journey, not just towards not being racist, but not tolerating racism and abolishing it. For the white people, we're going to be on a journey. And many people will be on a journey questioning ourselves, and I encourage you to do it. I think we've talked lots about Frederick Douglass's notion of where there is no struggle, there is no progress. This warrants a struggle, or this warrants progress. And so if we're struggling, I want to tell you, I think we're on the right path. Again, there is no easy solution, and SBP can't do it by ourselves, and none of us can do it by ourselves. But we all have to do something. I commit to doing it. I commit to leading SBP in that direction. And I need you guys, all of you, to be on this journey with me. As I said earlier, today is the beginning. It's the start. And we're going to be on this journey together. We are going to talk about 6 specific things that we're going to do, and we have some deadlines to them. But again, I need to make clear to all of you that we are on the journey. This is the beginning, and we're not there. I also don't have my glasses, so I'm going to hold this a little more close to my face than I'd like. And if Liz is listening, maybe she'll grab my glasses. I know Liz is listening, but she's actually, anyhow. So beginning next week, for the next 6 months, everyone at SBP, thank you, sorry. Yeah. Everyone at SBP is going to have 1 day a month to take off and invest in causes of your choice tied to racial justice and equity. This is something some of you may choose to do in your personal time, but I want to echo the importance of it, that it's important that I believe and SBP believes in it so deeply. We want to invest. You're paid. This is not like a day off uncompensated. This is a compensated day on. I'm asking everybody to do it and to talk about it. We will come up with some options. However, you can find your own options. For some, it may be protesting. For others, it may be litigation. I guess I'm the only lawyer here. But it can take whatever form is dear to your heart. I encourage, frankly, everybody to do it. And that's something we'll do for at least the next 6 months. Kyle is going to share the process. There's some process, but again, we're not going to bet what you do, and we're not going to get into your business. And frankly, you don't have to tell your managers what you're doing, because this is deeply personal. And I want you to do what speaks to your heart. If you choose to share, that's fine and wonderful. But this is a day for you to invest in a way that's consistent with your values. I do ask that it's tied towards achieving racial equity and ending race-based violence. Second, we are becoming members of the National Urban League and the Urban League at every one of our operating sites. Mark Morrell, who's the CEO, has been a colleague of mine for years. We're talking with his leadership team on Monday. There will be opportunities at every operating site for national roles for people to be involved with the Urban League. I know there's a number of wonderful groups out there. This is the one that we're choosing. Third, we are starting a mentoring program that is focused, at least initially, for our Black staff members. I'm going to be interviewing our Black staff members over the next 2 weeks to understand what success looks like for them in their career in a SBP. And the reason we're doing this is, and we'll get to this at number 6, because we don't have Black executives at SBP, we have to replicate it out of house, and we will do it with industry leaders and highly successful professionals. 4th, we're creating, and I seek participation, a curated list of readings and trainings on the topic of racial justice and equity that we want all staff members and AmeriCorps members to participate. If anyone would like to review or help curate this list, please reach out to Anya immediately. We commit to having this list no later than 2 weeks. I have been voraciously reading myself. I'm almost on overload, and so I won't be deciding. It will be a team of folks who will lead this. 5th, we're gonna, and this was an idea coming from the team, we're gonna have a curated, can we answer the questions after? Keep typing them. But I wanna get through this, so please include the questions. We're gonna have a curated town hall that's gonna be led by African-American board members and African-American staff, where we're going to talk about matters tied to race-based injustice. I think it's very important, and we're going to do it. There will be questions that can be submitted, and we'll have a good, I think, clarifying talk. And then finally, and I will get to the questions. I see them coming. I just want to do this first, if I may. We commit to and have to commit to developing a more diverse team. It is the right thing to do on absolutely every level. This is something I am raising. We have 2 deep dives at the 2-day board meeting coming up on the 25th and 26th of June, and this is one of those 2 deep dives. I wish I could tell you now what the plan is going to be. If I had a great plan, would be doing it, but we will. And again, this will be something that will be supported by, and I'll be held accountable to my bosses. And so that's where we are. Do we have Ron and Jackie? And I am very open and interested in questions or feedback from the team. I do want you to know I am incredibly proud of the work that SBP has done for the past 14 years. And one way that we can do honor to these important causes is by executing the heck out of our mission. But frankly, it's my view that this is not enough any longer. And so, Ron, I don't know if you're there.
I'm here.
There you are. There's Ron. Ron, would you?
I'm here.
And Jackie's here too. Ron, do you mind kicking us off if there's anything you think is important to share? And then Jackie, will you share? And then maybe all of us can take some questions.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll do that. So thank you, Zach. And then thank you to the SBT team. I see some familiar faces out there. And I just want to paint a broad picture for this organization, to this group. One of the reasons why I started volunteering with SBP and then partnering with SBP and eventually being asked to join the board is that, and there's a long story, I'll give you the short story. I lost 9 family members in the Haitian earthquake. And I always wondered, what could we do here in the States to improve the condition here for Americans? And then I saw what Zach and Liz and team were doing, I got excited. And then at the premise of what SBP does is bring equality to those who are less fortunate during a natural disaster. That's one of the premises. Bring people back to a basic premise of what SBP does. And so the reason I want to bring this up is the events that have happened over the last 2 weeks, as a person of color, it's one of those, here we go again. However, I do feel that it's a little bit different. I have an 18-year-old son who goes to DePaul here in college. I worry about him all the time. Every parent worries about their kid. Totally agree with that. But the one thing I'll say is I've always had this level of anxiety that my mom had for me when he does leave the home because I never know who he's going to come across, who's going to see him jogging in the neighborhood and assume he's not where he needs to be. So this is something that I've been dealing with for my whole life. I'll give you 3 quick examples, and then someone will be like, yeah, that's expected, or yeah, that still happens. At 16 years old, I got shot here in Chicago. I'm going to a Bulls rally. Lost my cousin in my arms. The police arrested me, handcuffed me, pretty much beat me up while I had a bullet wound in me. He felt that I must have been the culprit. I was not. So that was the first instance of many. The second one, 20 years later, I'm the CIO of a Fortune 25 company. I am a keynote speaker at a CIO conference. Hotel security comes, checks my credentials, because I just didn't look like I was in the right place. I was a keynote speaker. I swallowed hard. I gave the best speech I possibly could, blew him away. Showed no anxiety, just went through it. Here's the last one I'll share with you. I'm walking out of my offices in Springfield here in Illinois. As you know, I'm the CIO for the state. And I'm walking from the office to my hotel. A car pulls around, and actually I saw the car pulling around more than once, so I noticed a pattern. Pulled up next to me at a stoplight, so he timed it perfectly, rolled his window down, sorry for the word, said, nigger, go home, and threw a water bottle at me. The next morning, I drove to a local community, 98% white, and touted how great they're doing their STEM education. So I had to swallow hard, even though that just happened the night before, and I'm a public servant serving that person who threw a water bottle at me. That happened in February, 3-4 months ago. So the reason I bring those examples, and again, Black folks probably have a million of them because we have a diverse Black American experience, but these are just some examples. So when this kicked off and this moment happened, I'm really focused on making sure this moment becomes a movement. It's not a point in time. It's not a newsreel moment, and then we move on to the next big thing. That's very important to me. You know, we talk about prayers and thoughts. We need to make those actions and behaviors. And so to be affiliated to this organization, to SBP, to be able to go to Houston with many of you, to be able to go to Baton Rouge, to go to Puerto Rico actually 1.5 years ago. For me, I have so much pride in that. And to know that this group already believes in equity more than anything else, because that's the basis of what you do to bring people whole. And the fact that you're addressing in this manner, I am proud, but I know it takes work. And the last thing I'll say before I give the baton over to my colleague and friend Jacqueline is that I totally understand that many of you did not make the world it is today. I'm a history freak. This is 401 years in the making. Totally get it. But I do encourage you, ask the questions. You don't know until you ask. You may not understand it. Every time we used to say Black Lives Matter, the result would be, well, white lives matter. All lives matter. We totally agree with you. But what we're saying right now at this point in time is that the neighborhood has all the houses. All the houses are important. We all agree with that. But this one Black house keeps on having a problem. It's a chronic issue. Let's all focus, all lives matter, but let's focus on that one Black house right now, because I think it's time, as all Americans, we could rally around that house. I was born in 1974. 9 years before I was born, we had the right to vote. For me, that's just absolutely fascinating. We could do better, we could do more, and now's the time to do it. So I leave you with that. There's so much more I could talk about, but I know that I want to hear the dialogue. I want to be engaged as much as I possibly can. And of course, I want to hear what my tremendous colleague Jacqueline has to say. So with that, I'll pass the baton to Jacqueline.
Thank you, Ron. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I'm in a very small town in Hood River, Oregon, and I have a pretty low connection as far as my cell phone and internet here, but I want to say I'm very proud to be, a part of SBP. I think we do amazing work. We do amazing work for our community. I agree with Ron. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done as a nation, obviously, but I think that, I've had similar experiences as Ron. I have 14-year-old twins. My son is far more affected by this, and he's a boy than my daughter. And since we moved to Oregon, I don't know if you guys know, but Portland's supposed to be like the whitest city in America, according to statistics. And just being a Black person here, building the facility, I'm constantly being singled out. People come to my factory and say, oh, where's your boss? Or, things like that. Or the other day, I'm at my place in Portland having construction done. I'm calling the police on some homeless people who broke in. They actually came up to me like, oh, yeah, we heard there was a disturbance. Show us your ID. I'm like, I'm the property owner. So, and I think Ron's right. We get so used to experiencing this that I don't know, it's almost as if we just expect it. At least you expect it here in Oregon. I'm not going to stay on long because I know other people have, need to chime in, but I want to say I know that the road ahead of us is going to be challenging, but I am very pleased to know that, Zach and everyone on our team, all of you, we're going to embark on this journey together. So thank you so much for being a part of it.
Jackie and Ron, thank you for sharing and your candor, and for being the kind of people and at length with Jackie and Ron and some of the staff members. And we will do better, and we can do better. And I think in some ways SBT represent the best of our country and humanity. But again, I can't make it clear enough that that's not enough any longer. And we'll be on this journey together. So, Liz, as I'm breaking up, now I'm going to open to questions or feedback if there are any. And so I'm comfortable for the technical questions that I asked, we'll get back to you if it's how do we take time off. Kyle will take note of that and respond to everyone, if not today or sooner. If there's so the technical questions, they're very important. Let's take offline. But I am open to hearing how this is resonating with the team. What else you'd like to see? What questions? List as I'm breaking up, so I'm going to go to the other phone. Will you stand here? So.
I'm using the iPad that's in the table.
I think someone's playing Fortnite at the McCartneys.
Sorry, you guys.
Absolutely not. Folks, I apologize for that. Liz said I was breaking up, so we did a little shuffle. I'm very interested in hearing feedback. I understand that some folks may not want to share as well for very important reasons. Some folks may be tired and exhausted. But if there is anything, the questions for me or Ron or Jackie, I'd find them very appropriate, and the floor is open. Feel free to either type them or just unmute yourself.
I know that Robert Harris didn't have a question but wanted to make a statement. Robert, you're welcome to do so.
Okay. Can y'all hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'll try to make this kind of quick and explain the best way that I can. I understand where Ron was coming from with his statement, and I feel it. It's just kind of I'm sorry. I'm really trying to get worded together and try to really express what I'm feeling, and it's just beyond as much as it needs to be fixed, as many things that need to be changed, and as true as everything he said was, it's just I have a hard time accepting things like this, just simply due to what I witness on a regular basis. And I know how it feels to go through this kind of stuff. I've experienced it firsthand. I know what it's like to be discriminated. I know what it's like to have the social or racial profiling happen. But it's just I can't see this really being changed by us getting on the people who are doing it more like it needs to be changed from the inside. And I say that from talking to people like my mother. My mother, she's an officer. She's a Black woman, and she understands exactly what's going on because she's right there witnessing it. And she also knows that she can't actually speak out, because if she was to say one thing about how she truly feels, that could end her career right then and there. Then not only that, but it can be worded, it can be completely thrown out of proportion, it can be ruined immediately only because of what her position is. But when me and her have talked, everything people are saying today is true. It is. It's just as true as that is. we as a Black community are not fixing the problem, which is within us. And I'm not saying that none of that's like actually happening now. It's just not happening as strong as it truly could be, if that makes sense to anyone. I don't want to disrespect anybody. I don't want to step on their toes here. It's just, that's just how I feel on it. And I can't see this really helping anyone, really making things better, unless we look at ourselves and say, okay, this is what needs to be fixed. But that's just what I wanted to say. And if I need to explain better, I'll more than welcomely explain it.
Robert, I appreciate, and I'm not sure if Jackie or Ron wants to comment, I appreciate you sharing. I haven't lived your life, and I haven't lived your mother's life. I know the experience is different for all of us. I know there's different depths of anger and fear. Conversations that I have with my son are very different than, by necessity, the conversations that Jackie and Ron have to have with their sons. I'll tell you, I had a discussion with a guy I really look up to, Black guy, extraordinarily successful, really a mentor to me. And we were talking about life and our kids, and we were talking about the world after George Floyd. And it really hit me. And I have Black family members, like for whatever that means, something or nothing. And he was sharing the story of his high school son, who's on the track team. And he was sharing how his son has been training for track in a way that's challenging. He is a sprinter, but he's only allowed to jog in his neighborhood because his dad doesn't want a young Black man to be seen sprinting in the neighborhood, and all that could come from that. Home on one level as it would, but even more so it hit home. And I was sharing this, I think, with Ron the other day, because from the very beginning of COVID, and some of you might have been on the phone calls with me when it was happening, I've been having my son sprint through the neighborhood so he'd be exhausted and could focus on school. And so I say this as nothing about my enlightenment, but to share with folks that there are going to be profoundly different experiences. And I think if there was an easy answer, there would be. I encourage us all to struggle. And if we're struggling, and if we're questioning, and we're doing things that aren't easy, and we're thinking more, to me, we'll be on the pathway to success. But Robert, I simply appreciate you sharing.
Thank you. I appreciate your words as well. That means a lot to hearing that.
Zach, this is Glenn. I'd like to say something. Can
Yes,
you hear me?
Yeah, I'm trying to see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm one of the old guys around here, and I grew up in South Carolina, the old South, and where racism has been rampant for 400 years. My family, my extended family, are racist. Were racist. Most of them have passed. I grew up with knowing that, I guess. But I'm a Christian now. At 11 years old, I accepted Jesus as my Savior, and I started learning. But I also realized at that time that in South Carolina, and I'm a Baptist, there's white churches and there are Black churches, and there is not a mixture. And so there's still racism even in the Christian world. And even though those have been broken down a lot over the years, it's still like that. But about 25 years ago, about 20 years ago, I was in a Bible study with a bunch of men at my church. And the question was asked, if you have a daughter or a son and they want to marry, and of course we're all white, if they were to want to marry a Black person, would you have an issue with that? And I raised my hand immediately. Oh yeah, I would. No, my daughter is not marrying a Black man. And then they said, you need to think about that, because God made everybody. There's nobody different. There's nobody special. They're all God's children. And so I'm going to cut to the chase. It took me a while for me to get to the point where I had to do the struggling that you just talked about. I had to look inward, and I had to
I love it.
question my beliefs, what I grew up with, and it totally changed. I had to do a 180 to the point that my daughter was 3 years old at the time, and I grew up knowing that possibly, she could marry someone that was Black or Hispanic or whatever. And so through that struggle, I got to the point that color doesn't matter. And so for the last 20 years, color hasn't mattered. I adopted a boy from Romania. He was a gypsy. So he was an outcast in Romania because they wanted blue-eyed blondes. But we adopted him. He's 22 years old now. Just great guy. My other daughter is adopting a little boy from Burundi. So I'm gonna have an African grandson soon, and who will be an African American when we can get him here. And so that change started 20 years ago for me. And so when I see everything that's going on now, we as individuals have to take personal accountability of our thoughts, our fears, and we need to answer that question. Does it matter the skin color? And you got to get to that on your own, and that's where the struggle is. And I hurt for all of my friends, brothers, sisters that are in the Black community because they struggle. And in South Carolina, it is bad. It has always been bad. But this is an opportunity for us on a whole to make a change, and a long-lasting change, and not just a moment in time. We need to end it now, so for the next 100 years, my kids, my grandson, whenever I get him here from Africa, won't have to deal with the things that folks are having to deal with now. And so my heart aches for them. So I just want to challenge everybody to take this serious, search your heart, spend time. It's not a quick, easy thing, because it took me some time to change my beliefs the way I grew up. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Glenn, thank you for sharing. And, I love seeing the dialogue here. I love seeing the participation. I think a real discussion about, again, this is a process. This is a journey, and we could talk about this for 3 days and not scratch the surface. But I appreciate all of you for questioning yourselves. We're not going to get better doing the same thing. We can't. It's just like we think about our work, and this is as if not more important. So we've got to be willing to do things differently, and I encourage everybody on the team to do that, and I encourage all of you to hold me and the leadership team accountable. With that, Ron, is there anything, do you have any guidance or feedback here, or?
So I just responded to Glenn. I just want to thank Glenn, because a lot of times what I notice is that people just don't want to share because either there's a level of guilt or they feel that they're taking the burden of what's happening on them. And I don't see it that way. So Glenn, thank you very much, because more people need to hear that. You could open up your eyes. My wife is Filipino. I've never had beef with Filipinos. Lovely people. They cook the best food. Maybe that's why I married her. But at the end of the day, it's just we're all one people. And Glenn's statement hit it spot on. The other thing I'll say back to Robert, I totally hear you. I have family members in Chicago PD. And my statement to that one is, if the community around you starts feeling that it's just not okay to have that water cooler racism, you got to start nibbling at the edges of it, or it will never change. So I agree. Speaking up sometimes could actually ostracize you a little bit. But if the community feels that's just no longer okay, people start changing. Keep in mind, 100 years ago, women got the right to vote. I mean, just to say these things is like, really? So it can change, but it's going to take each one of us to just nibble away on the edges. You can't make it a decree. You can't make it a mandate. You have to believe it and just really start seeing it in action. 3 things that changed the world for me on this last 2 weeks. One, they fired the cops in 24 hours. Unheard of. Every Black person on this call was like, that what? They fired them in 24 hours? Within a week, they arrested all 4 of them. The NFL has agreed that maybe they have not thought about this properly. Yesterday, NASCAR agreed that Confederate flags are no longer allowed. I know 2020 has been a weird year, but wow. I mean, that is a big deal. So I just want to really leave it that there is something happening. I think each one of us in our own micro way will make this macro change, but it's going to be the dialogue. And the fact that you're having this conversation is amazing. And last thing I'll say is I did talk to Zach a couple days ago. I think it was 2 evenings ago. Michael Dell called me, and I got to know him real well from my past life. He asked me to join his leadership call, and we had the same thing with 100 of his global leaders, and we had this conversation. And I would probably agree that probably the lowest salary on that call was $2 million salary. These people were well-to-do. They wanted to have that conversation because they realized they did not have all the answers. So please continue the dialogue in any way that you can have myself. Of course, Jacqueline will happily jump in. We would love to just be part of the dialogue, but hearing from you is very important. My parents are from Haiti. You know, when they came to America, this whole thing was weird to them. But there's people, friends of mine, those of you here who grew up in the South. I've been to the South. I've worked in the South, and I don't quite understand parts of the South. So for me as a Black person, I'm still also learning from other parts. I lived in St. Louis. St. Louis is a little bit more southern, surprisingly, than Alabama and Georgia. I learned that, you know, each area is different, and the Black experience is a spectrum. So the dialogue helps a great deal. Thank you.
Ron, thank you deeply for sharing and for being available. I want you to know, well, team, I want you to know, you know, it means the world, Ron, that you're making yourself available given all your other priorities. And I want the SPP team to know that he's doing this not in Jackie and Derek and Latondra and the other people in our world. Ron, Latondra, and I are talking at the end of this week tomorrow. Are doing this not as favors for me, but because they believe in each and every one of you. And I want to make that message loud and clear. I know that we have, I saw on the chat that there's 2 more people who would like to speak. I guess I'm not in the position to say no. I also very much want to respect, actually something I want to be clear for white people not to have the last word. So I'm happy to, I think the 2 people, I can't see you and I can't get the chat back, want to speak. So I encourage you 2 people to speak, but for once, I don't want the white people to have the last word. So whoever it is, Ron, if it's you, if it's an SPP team member, an AmeriCorps member, someone, but let's hear from the 2 folks who want to speak, call it, and then we'll have, again, like I think white people have to be conscious about this. I'm not going to have the last word today either.
Jack, this is Laurie.
Hey, Laurie.
Hi. You know, I never say anything. I'm up here. And this is a little heartwarming here, what's going on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm looking to see you. I can hear you. Sorry, I'll quit scrolling and just focus on your voice.
Yeah, I'm up here.
Well,
but I've been listening to everyone, and my goodness, they don't know where to start. They don't know what to say. We don't know how to feel. But we start with ourselves, like Ron said, and Glenn said it too. I want to tell you guys something. Your thoughts and feelings and spoken words is your whole life. And if you never know anything else, if you control that and always start everything with love, and I mean love, the word love, the feeling love, the act of love, no struggle. The struggle makes the struggle. If you feel struggle, then you're going to struggle. Move it and put something very clear and wonderful in that place. But your thoughts and your feelings and your spoken words is all you have. And if you take that in hand, oh my God, everything, all of this will stop. Your protection, your funds, your job, your mind, your attitude, everything. People will look at you different, and it'll be different because that's what you want.
Laurie, thank you.
Tell you a million other things. I needed to tell you that. And everybody, I love everybody. I don't have that problem. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. You're blowing up the chat line. And
Woo, my
from
goodness.
those of us who don't know how to chat, if we did, we would as well. Is there anything else someone else would like to share, or should we call it on Lori's notion of love?
I would like to add something. I do wish, Lori, you went first. That was beautiful, and I'm super white.
Who is this?
And I
Sorry,
agree
we can't.
Sorry?
Where are you? Who is this? We can't see. Where are you? Sorry. Oh, there
this
you
is
are.
Alex.
Hey, Alex. Yep,
Hi.
I got you now. Hi, Alex.
Here, I'm here.
I got you.
I just wanted to add quickly, and then Lori, please do part 2. I second the, I don't need to be the last person to say something. But I'm stationed in Puerto Rico. I don't have the option to go to protests in the States at the moment, which would be, great. But like someone mentioned, there are different ways to contribute and to be an ally, to fight back. And something that I've found really helpful is knowing how to spot fallacies on social media and respond appropriately. And I really encourage everyone to educate themselves and try to do that. I know I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I'm from the capital of the Confederacy. Everyone's right now, there's a big thing about taking the statues down. I've had to have really difficult conversations with my own family in regards to everything. And it's really important to be able to kind of at least be able to educate yourself, to open up your own eyes, but then share that. So yeah, I just wanted to share that that's a really, I think, important way to be involved, especially if you're not comfortable or unable to, do other ways of being involved. That was all.
Okay.
Please, part 2, Lori.
Alex, thank you for sharing that. So who's going to bring us home and close off?
Hey, Zach. I don't want to be the last person to speak, but I did want to share something. It's Gio. Hi, everybody. I just really wanted to echo a bit of what Glenn has been saying. I felt like what I really understood Robert's point is that we really need to look into ourselves. And it's, I believe, really the job of non-Black people now to look into ourselves and to do that work. And I know, like, I'm Latina. It wasn't until my junior year of college that I realized that I wasn't white, because in the States I'm not, right? But in Puerto Rico I am. And that's just one manifestation of how, as Ron was saying, where you are colors so much the experience that you're having, and that the people around you are having. So I would love to, like, from the curated list of readings about it, if we can set up like tiny conversation groups so that we can continue having this conversation, and everybody can open up more and continue doing that work together, and we can learn from each other.
Great.
Thank you so much, everybody that has spoken, and thank you for this leadership. This has been a great call.
I appreciate you, Gio. You know that, and everybody. All right, who's going to wrap us up? Ron, may I ask you too, if I don't hear anyone else? And it could, however you wish to close this, I will learn from.
I'd like to say something, Zach.
Yes, sir. Who is it?
Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm doing all right. And I just wanted to say that as a Black person that has all of the, I have plenty of stories about injustice because of my skin color and everything like that. But I try to practice what I preach, and I like to preach personal responsibility, because if I'm going to go off of the discrimination that I get because of hate, if I'm going to discriminate, and I guess the main thing that I want to say is that I wouldn't go around asking every white person to look deep inside of themselves, because I don't find that all white people is racist. and I'm finding that mostly white people in the beginning taking this thing and like taking how far it's gone. I think that they've shown out and they've been with us, and it's not like black people are in this by themselves with just like a couple of people that's like, oh, we're just gonna help you too. Like one person said, the people were fired immediately. The things that people are asking for are is happening. Like the cops are getting charges on murder, and when it was third-degree murder at first, they upgraded to second-degree because of the anger, and then people doing their investigation. And a whole lot of people are doing their jobs in a whole lot of places. So I just wanted to say as a black person that I'm not immediately going to be like racism. I have a lot of understanding for a whole lot of things that can happen and that do happen, but with people and friends and comrades and loved ones on all sides of the spectrum, black, white, all of this other type of stuff, I just wanted to say that the actions of individuals is not gonna don't speak for any race, any black people, any white people as a whole. And that's just what I wanted to say, because it's getting a little weird with a whole lot of seems like all black anger and all white apology, and I'm like, but I don't really find y'all as racist, so I don't know what y'all really have to be sorry about. But that's just me personally, and I don't discount or discredit the experiences of other people. I'm just speaking for myself, and I felt it in my heart as I was listening to the meeting. That was it.
Jonathan, thank you for sharing. And I say we leave it with that, and it continues, and we'll get better. I'm open to communication personally, offline, publicly, as we're on this journey to improve together. So I thank you all. We are on this journey. We're going to meet these timelines. And again, this is the beginning. So folks, I appreciate you all. And thanks very much. We'll talk soon, folks. Thank you.